Close your eyes for a moment. Picture this. It's 2000 BCE. On one side of the world, a man named Khufu stands before the Nile River, watching thousands of workers move massive limestone blocks to build something that will last 4,500 years. On the other side of the world, across an ocean he'll never cross, a Filipino sailor navigates the Philippine archipelago by starlight, mastering the waters in ways that would astound any Egyptian. These two worlds, these two civilizations, they rose, they thrived, they built, and they never knew the other existed. This is the story of echoes before empires, when human brilliance bloomed in isolation. Ancient Egypt. Let's begin on the banks of the Nile, where Egypt's story started not with gods, but with a river. Around 3100 BCE, something extraordinary happened. A man named Narmer unified Upper and Lower Egypt, and from that single moment, one of history's greatest civilizations was born. But Egypt didn't succeed because it was lucky. It succeeded because it understood the Nile. Every year, the Nile flooded. Every year, it brought rich black soil that made the desert bloom. The Egyptians didn't fight this cycle. They orchestrated it. They built irrigation systems, understood mathematics, and mastered agriculture in a landscape that should have been impossible to settle. And then they reached for the sky. The pyramids weren't just tombs. They were statements. They were questions asked of eternity itself. Can humans build something so permanent that gods themselves would notice? From 2589 BCE onward, pharaohs poured their empires into stone. Khufu's Great Pyramid required 2.3 million blocks, moved by ramps and rollers and human determination. For 3,800 years, it was the tallest human-made structure on Earth. But the pyramids tell only half the story. Egypt had writing, hieroglyphics that transformed thoughts into permanence. They had medicine, they had art, they had a bureaucracy so sophisticated that it would inspire governments 2,000 years later. By 1550 BCE, Egypt's new kingdom was at its peak. Pharaoh Thutmose III led armies across the Middle East. Hatshepsut, one of history's greatest female rulers, led expeditions to distant lands. Egypt was a superpower. And yet, it would never know what was happening thousands of miles away. Ancient Philippines. While Egypt built toward the heavens, the Philippines was building toward the horizon. The Philippine archipelago, over 7,600 islands scattered across the Philippine Sea, was never meant to produce a unified civilization. It was meant to produce sailors. Around 2000 BCE, Austronesian peoples began settling the Philippines. They didn't arrive by accident. These weren't people blown off course. They were master navigators who read the stars, the currents, and the winds like books. They built boats called barangay, outrigger canoes that could handle open ocean. While Egyptians were perfecting agriculture, Filipinos were perfecting navigation. While Egyptians were building pyramids, Filipinos were building trade networks that stretched from Borneo to Taiwan to the South China Sea. The early Filipinos developed something Egypt never needed: a maritime culture. They didn't build monuments of stone because they understood something the Egyptians didn't. Permanence comes through movement, through trade, through connection. Their legacy wasn't written in granite. It was written in roots. By 1000 BCE, what would become the Philippines was part of a vast trading network. Iron tools arrived. Wet rice agriculture transformed inland valleys. Kingdoms began to form, places like Tundun, which would later become Manila. Unlike Egypt's centralized pharaonic structure, these were looser, more distributed kingdoms connected by the sea. The Filipinos created something different from Egypt's pyramids. They created possibility. Every island was a world unto itself, yet all were connected by those master navigators and their boats. Parallel development. Here's what's stunning. These civilizations developed simultaneously. While Khufu's pyramid was being built, Filipino traders were establishing markets. While Thutmose III was conquering empires, Filipino kingdoms were rising. Both societies created art. Both understood mathematics. Both built complex social structures. Both lasted for millennia. But they did it independently, completely, utterly alone. The Indian Ocean and the vast Pacific were walls neither could cross. Egypt looked inward, toward the desert, toward eternity, toward monuments that would outlast time itself. The Philippines looked outward, toward horizons, toward trade, toward connections between islands and peoples. Two different answers to the same human question. How do we build something that matters? Conclusion. Thousands of years later, the world changed. Ships grew stronger, navigation improved, and finally, in the 16th century, these two echoes before empires would collide when European explorers brought knowledge of distant lands. But for nearly 4,000 years, they were alone, brilliant, independent, thriving. This is what fascinates me about ancient history. It's not just about what they built. It's about the fact that human genius isn't singular. It doesn't flow from one place to another. It erupts everywhere, independently, whenever humans decide that something matters enough to dedicate their lives to it. Egypt and the Philippines never knew each other, but both answered the call that echoes through human history. Leave something behind. Build something that lasts. These are the echoes before empires, and their stories still matter today. Outro. If you loved exploring these two incredible civilizations, subscribe to Echoes Before Empires. We dig deeper into the stories history forgot. Next time, we're exploring Göbekli Tepe, the temple that shouldn't exist. 11,500 years ago. See you in the next one.